Hello, and this is a public service announcement regarding an investigation of Pixelbot aimbots in Overwatch. Before we dive into the video, I would like to quickly introduce who I am and my background. My gamer alias is known as Static. I have competed and played in FPS games for over 10 years. During my time playing FPS games competitively as a hobby, I also pursued a degree in software engineering. In my early years, throughout my time playing FPS games competitively, I have not only been cheated, seen people cheat, know people who have been caught cheating, have seen people and know people who have made cheats, and with my own technical skills, have looked into cheats that were made, in particular for Overwatch, that are publicly available online. This is a quick outline of the topics I will cover in this video. I will explain how the red outlines in Overwatch are being used as a detection method for creating a general aimbot. We will also explore a scientific comparison of natural aim limitations versus augmented aim. I will show you some red flags I follow if someone is using an aimbot or a red outline pixelbot. I will also examine some clips of pixelbots and with some logic and scientific methods provide a simple calculation to see if an aimbot is present. At the end of the video I'll just discuss my thoughts and conclusions about the whole matter. Before we go into red pixel aimbots, I wanted to quickly discuss some of the main characteristics of aimbots. First one being the response time, the second one being precision, and the third one being trajectory. Now, usually blatant aimbots acquire targets anything below 150 milliseconds. Precision is determined by how well, once the target is acquired, the tracking. Now, if I'm able to detect that the position of the mouse is on the same position as the target, frame by frame, that's usually pretty blatant. The third one is a very tough one to prove, as it determines how well the path taken from the target is made. Now, if the path taken from the initial point to the end point is a straight line, and that line that was drawn is perfect in terms of pixel to pixel, frame by frame, that's usually another indicator that someone's using an aimbot. So what is a red outline pixel aimbot? Well, it's just an aimbot, except it's locking onto the red outlines of the models of the characters. As you can see, the outline on the Ana, the outline on the Hog, and also the same colors that represent the outlines are also shown in the health bars. Once the red outline is detected, those coordinates can be sent to the mouse. And once the coordinates have been sent to the mouse, you can tell the mouse to move to that last known position where the pixel was detected, ultimately giving you an aimbot. Here's an example of a red outline pixelbot. I'd also like to make note that I blurred out the top because I didn't want to advertise anything about this hack. I just wanted to illustrate and show an example of a real running pixel aimbot from the perspective of someone who might be using it. There are two unique characteristics to pixel aimbots. One is the jittering, and the second one is unexpected aim locks. Now, the reason for these two unique characteristics versus any other aimbot is that it's a cause of background noise. Now, this background noise is due to trying to find the red outline color to lock onto. Now, with Overwatch, there's a lot of particle effects, a lot of alts going off, a lot of random noise that is basically going to interfere with the detection method of the aimbot. So when you see these things, it's pretty obvious that someone's using a pixel bot. However, to the untrained eye, someone who sees this happening live would just look at it and be like, oh, it's just interp from the replay. It's just this. Oh, this jittering is weird. But they have no explanation as to what's going on because they don't know what a red pixel aimbot is. However, to people who know how red pixel aimbots work and the naive implementations of them can look at them and say, okay, this guy's using some kind of pixel bot because of the characteristics that are very blatant to see, which are the jittering and the random locks due to the noise. Now that we got an idea of what a pixelbot aimbot is, how aimbots basically behave, and what to look for, let's start to look at some clips.
Holy shit.
Time to raise my
Boost you up?
I can't heal, their roadhog can't heal. Run!
Save up.
You behind?
We have telly? Okay. You sure?
I have TB guys. Yeah, I hope.
So, now that we looked at a couple examples of very jittery gameplay, let's take a look at a Sombra clip here to kind of further illustrate and examine step by step what is going on. Now, you see Sombra basically entering stealth here. And when under stealth, we all know as Sombra, you get this purple overlay. Now, depending on the hack, that's going to affect the colors of the outlines. So when you're in stealth, you notice that there's no jitters. As soon as she comes out of stealth, there's some jitters. Now that we've looked at a couple jitter examples of color bots, let's take a look at another characteristics that I mentioned earlier, which was random noise, and how that random noise, particle effects, outlines, how these things can cause random locks in the game if someone's using a naive implementation.
Tell me, get out of here. God, you're amazing, dude.
Have my shatter! Have my shatter! Okay, okay. I missed! Don't talk about it! I'm lagging!
Now that we've looked at a couple examples of aim locks due to the noise of similar colors, particles, and outlines that may come into play, let's look at an example of the soldier ult and Mei Ult and the random lock that you see on the ult. Now it's a bit obvious, as you can see, that there's a lock on to the Mei Ult, and the reason again is that the Mei Ult has this red outline color, and that red outline color is similar to the same color that is being searched for the red outline on the character models. Now, the reason that you see that it's a lock on randomly is that it may have been toggled. There may have been a set key press where a toggle is made and it wasn't intended to detect that Mei outline. Now the last thing I wanted to cover in this video is natural aim versus augmented aim. Now in order to compare these two, we need to understand the human limitations of reaction time. Now I pulled this study from the US National Library of Medicine, National Institute of Health, where they did a comparative study of visual and auditory reaction times on the basis of gender and physical activity. Now the data depicted in this table shows two different types of sample sets taken. The one being the inactive sample set of 100 people and their visual and auditory reaction times on average. Now, as you can see, their visual is about 250 milliseconds and their auditory is 229 milliseconds, respectively. Now, on the right side, the regularly exercising sample set, these are the type of people that participate in sports, do exercise, anything that requires some additional hand-eye coordination. Now, as you can see, their visual and auditory averages for the reaction time are only a little bit less than the ones who are inactive. As you can see, the visual is only up to about 235 milliseconds, plus or minus 13, and an auditory of 219 milliseconds. Now, there is an argument to be had about this. If someone's going to be looking at this, they're going to say, well, we're gamers, we play FPS, we're just unique snowflakes. Well, if that's the case, let's put that to the test. To test this claim, I went to a website called humanbenchmark.com. On this website, you're able to test your reaction time. Now, how the test works is it takes an average of 5 mouse click measurements, based on how fast you respond to change from red to green. I got around 192 milliseconds after doing the test a couple times. Now, you can get lucky in pre-fire if you did the test a couple times. However, I challenge you to see what you get when you do it the first time. Now that we have an understanding of the human limitations of reaction time, how do we go about determining if someone's aim is augmented or legitimate? I provided a simple method that can be used to determine a person's reaction time from a clip. Response time equals the sum of the total frames from initial movement to a target, divided by the frame rate of which the video was recorded in. There is also error to be accounted for depending on the frame rate of the clip or demo which was being analyzed. For example, let's suppose we have a 30 frame per second clip and we want to determine if someone is aimbotting simply on their reaction time. Suppose we looked at this 30 FPS clip frame by frame and were able to do a complete analysis and determine that we have a total amount of 2 frames from startup to target lockdown. Now we just simply divide that number by the frame rate and we get a response time of 66 milliseconds. Now error will be always down to a single frame divided by the frame rate of the clip. Again, in contrast, same case with a 60 FPS clip. Suppose we have 4 frames and we divide that by 60, we get 66 milliseconds. However, we have a better measurement, so our error is only within 16.6 milliseconds instead of 33.3 milliseconds. So now that we know how to make a calculation based on a clip, let's look at an example of 2 clips here, one being 30 FPS and one being 60 FPS, and let's break it down frame by frame and perform the response time calculation. So the first clip here is a 30 FPS clip of Zarya locking on to the McCree. Now, to the regular viewer, they're just going to stop and say, oh yeah, this kid's cheating 100%. Well, that's not really the best approach on seeing if someone's cheating. You actually have to do some factual calculations, collect a lot of clips, and then perform the calculation and determine if there's a pattern. So let's do a frame-by-frame analysis of this clip at 30 FPS and see what the response time is. So as we've seen in this clip, the response time is always going to be calculated based on how long a target has been seen on screen until initial movement of the mouse. However, people who use aimbots in most cases will have a button which they have toggled for activation of their aimbot, in which case their initial response time will always be within human limitations. So it's always good to make sure you determine a target acquired calculation as well to see if you see a pattern in any other clips. This is an example of a 60 FPS soldier clip demonstrating a scenario where an unintentional toggle occurs. As mentioned earlier, most aimbotters will assign a key press for activation and deactivation of their aimbot. But the caveat is, you cannot always predict when it's safe to activate or deactivate your aimbot, which can lead to mistakenly acquiring a random target that passes into view.
On top, HP.
Now watching the clip for the first time, we are aware that there's a soldier on that platform. Now it's not easily visible what was blocked onto at the time, but if you zoom things in and you slow it down frame by frame, you will notice there's a red outline that is visible for only 6 frames, and then followed up with only a 5 frame movement. Now, this is not only at max 116.6 milliseconds of response time, but it's well below the 150 millisecond threshold point like a God-given person could possibly react to. But again, also in context, how visible the outline is, you would absolutely need to have Terminator vision to even to begin to see the outline and respond to it, making this clip pretty damn blatant. On the same topic of blatant clips, here are some clips that I personally think look blatant, and here's a quick montage of those clips. I hope you enjoy it.
My hammer went through!
Nice. Is that a max? Where is my team?
Rallying tower, forward warrior.
One Zana.
Yeah, I hit by a car, bro.
Oh. Up.
Get in there.
There's some behind.
Now, wrapping things up, I just wanted to quickly discuss some of the closing comments regarding the Redoutline aimbots, and some other thoughts. Due to time, I will cover some of the main points I think are really important to mention. The first one being, what is the angle of approach for solution to this problem? Now that we understand the techniques used, how would we properly use them with sufficient evidence instead of accusing on just only a handful of clips? Now, a solution to the problem is not as simple as just removing the red outlines on character models in-game. The red outlines were designed by Blizzard to help improve player visibility and overall gameplay experience. A significant improvement to the game would most certainly be gameplay replays. A replay system would provide an additional eye for cheaters and a means to catalog evidence of possible cheaters. Warden Anti-Cheat does what it can to ban most common signatures of public aimbots. However, for some custom or personal compiled scripts of color bots, Warden can't keep up with all the unique signatures. So the current issue is that because we have no replay system, it's almost impossible to ban off interpolated kill cams or play the game clips. So when providing evidence of a suspected cheater, you cannot really call hacks unless the clip is laughably blatant. Instantly calling hacks based on one or two fishy clips is completely the wrong approach. The only way to properly construct a case is to silently collect a good amount of self-incriminating evidence of the cheater, then analyze a reasonably large dataset of these clips, and then come to a conclusion using logic and reasoning that is scientific in nature. Approaching this technique of investigation not only applies to Overwatch, but also applies to any other game that has a suspected cheater in it. So, that's about it. I really appreciate your time watching this kind of lengthy video. I wish I could have shortened it down, but I needed to emphasize some of the techniques and proper ways to investigate clips of cheating. I felt it was necessary to address this issue about color pixel bots in Overwatch, but also provide a better mindset that is healthier for the gaming community when it comes to accusing someone of possibly cheating. Now, if you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, I can be contacted at any time. I've also linked my information in the video below, and any references to the material used in this video as well.